I just want to spend a few minutes with you, and I'm good there was a counter on here. I wasn't sure. They keep changing things technologically. They're doing it just for people in my generation, just to spite us. They hate us. I know that. I've known it for a long time. When I first started hearing the expression, "Oh, that's old school," and I was already in my 40s at that time, I thought, "Oh, they really don't like us." And so what? You know, what goes around comes around. I remember being all that in a bag of chips before they even had that saying back in the 60s when we were flower children, and yet collectively as a whole, despite our earnest belief that we were so loving and so different than our dads who went off to World War II, and some of you maybe Korea, dads were there. And we saw a different, better way of sticking a flower in the rifle, that kind of stuff. Yet, so loving were we that collectively, en masse as a whole, we had the audacity and judgment to point a finger at some guy on a national stage running as a vice president in the early 70s election in the United States and say, well, he's unqualified because he had received psychiatric care at one time. The judgment and the stigma against something, it's just fear-based. Because I'm going to be honest with you, and I may regret this, but I doubt it. And if I do, I think I'll have gone around the bend by that time that I won't really know. But you never know what's coming for you. So it's either Satchel Paige or Forrest Gump who said it, I think. But whoever did it was absolutely right. I had anticipated going the way of all flesh in terms of my immediate family, and that is just physically breaking down. But I forgot about my grandmother. I forgot about. Here, let me show you something. There's some oil paintings on the floor. She did those in the 20s, and she was kind of a Zelda Fitzgerald type, probably, and had a really bad departure in terms of like losing it up here. Didn't know anybody and stuff. And I was young, and whatever she had, I think I'm mentally really losing it. I'm sorry. If I could make it different, I would. But there's enough Midwestern in me yet, even though I haven't lived there since I was a teenager, that I'm humbling myself. I submitted to. I've been going to see her in about 90 minutes. A psychiatrist I've been seeing, and she's been trying these different medications, and I can't really read up on it myself because I don't even trust myself enough to make an adequate decision about these things. She's just, she says here you have a mood disorder and you're cycling, and I don't know how I got that way. And if I did, like I'd say, I'd fix it. I can't. So I've submitted myself to her care, and hopefully this will turn around. And if not, and this is selfish, there's still one thing I think I can do. Oddly enough, God in His irony and infinite wisdom is bringing me to a point in this weakness of showing me something that really was probably maybe the most important thing you could have done your entire life, even when you did have it together. And it's unfathomable to me to consider that at one point in my life, in my 20s and 30s, back in the 70s and 80s, that I would get up every day, Monday through Friday, shower and get dressed and get on an L train in Chicago and go downtown and then go into a station and get up behind a microphone and talk to people for 4 hours. It's like I thought nothing of it. It would terrify me to do that and to be even interacting with those kind of people, because I'm so sort of intimidated now by those kind of people, because I feel like I've become I have to kind of stay on one thought, and I can't be going all over the place, I realize, anymore, because it's very damaging to me emotionally. And we're just so bombarded with things in our culture. I mean, before I was even up for 10, 15 minutes today, a neighbor said something, hey, did you hear Ted Cruz's father was part of the JFK assassination? I had to stop and think, wait a second, because I haven't been following the election. I don't know, Ted. So I went briefly online and I looked at the headline and I kind of looked at the first sentence, the first paragraph. And then as I became accustomed to read years ago, just bullet points, I can go through stories and I read what's superfluous and what's important to a journalistic story, at least if they're still writing sort of in the same framework. And I kind of just quit. And I thought, this is just bullshit. I don't have time for this. It's politics. It's deflammatory. It's get the worst unflattering picture of somebody, speak half-truths and bald-faced lies. Even though I'm not a Ted Cruz fan or a Donald Trump fan, I think I've mentioned that in the last video. I disengaged from politics when I didn't have to talk about it anymore on the radio. I thought, why bother? This because I saw through it then. So I want to continue to play along with a game that I know is completely rigged and that God isn't involved in. I'm sorry. He's allowed man to govern himself for the moment. And ain't we doing a wonderful job? But that, the good news is, and this stuff I'm still pretty clear on, and you can disagree with me, and that's okay. I still love you as a human being. And if you're one who has an elementary knowledge and just believes that Jesus Christ came in the flesh and was something special and was raised from the dead, and if you're still sorting all of that together and learning, I consider you a brother and sister that I'll know forever and ever. And so we have even a closer bond. But I'm still pretty clear on this stuff, that it's his movie, God's movie, as a close friend of mine, I've had him for a lot of years, said, and he has a very wonderful way of succinctly putting things into words that everybody can understand, which you're currently living in, and that's recorded here, because this is a book that has Genesis in the beginning, and then the revelation of Jesus Christ, who is the creator, by whom and through whom all things were created, that which you see and that which you don't see, and he's before all these things. You can disagree with me, as I said, on that, but I firmly believe we are going to get to a point, every one of us, who has eyes and ears right now, and these things, by the way, will all be returning to dust, and that the essence of you that he knows, that is going to be brought before him someday. So whether you lived in antiquity or whether you lived with the bright city lights, and all that's meaningless when it's all swallowed up in history, because it's all done already. You get what I'm saying? This is the history, man and God and the relationship, the two, from the beginning to the end. Then what you're living through has already happened. I know this is difficult to sort of comprehend, but it's true. And eventually, when the fulfillment of all times have been brought together in him, and we're all back in that spiritual realm, and there'll be a judgment. It's not going to be a judgment on anything that you see physically, because it's meaningless. What's meaningful is what's going on in here, and comes out at times in certain sort of words like, he's a nutcase, he could never be vice president. That's a horrible thing to say about another living human being just as yourself. That's just something to say to get you off of actually looking at yourself, which we cannot do without his help. This is the best thing, I think, in terms of driving this home, is to just, have you ever had that moment? Somebody might have said to you, do you hear what you're saying? Because we don't want to say that to ourselves, but sometimes if somebody says that, if you've said something and you go, do you hear what you just said? And usually they don't want to, but it's already right out of their mouth, and it's still there hanging in the atmosphere. And if they're honest, they go, oh yeah, I did, it's terrible. There's just stuff in my heart that I don't see. True that. And you're heading to a realm where it is going to be seen. So there'll be no need to put together syllables and words and form thoughts from me to you on this sort of medium of a YouTube or whatever. It's like everything's instant. So everything's instant here is known to everyone else around. So it's a really higher form of life that you're going to be entering into. But you want to enter it into now. And the best way to do that is to believe that one came into this world who looked like us, but inside was completely different. Imagine, I thought of this, maybe this is a good way. If you have a parent and you remember, even if your children are adults now, remember they were young and innocent and whatever they thought came out of their mouth, that kind of beautiful innocence where it was the real truth, out of the mouth of babes, as the book says. Imagine that sort of heart in a fully grown man, and then imagine that man up on a cross, bleeding with a crown of thorns and humiliated in every sort of way before the actual death, and pulling at the beard. Hey, who did that to you? Bam, hit him again. Who did that? This kind of, all of that was put on him because that's what you and me and everyone deserves. And if you don't believe that, I ask you again, do you hear what you just said? You ever have those moments? And even if you didn't, even if you think you're fooling everybody and you're a fairly good person, and then you have thoughts that you think to yourself that, well, I'm okay, nobody else has heard that. Yeah, but they're going to, very loudly, about each and every one of us. So please, please take his free gift. That was God that you saw or read about on that cross, in the weakest and most vilest state. And that was him in his power to save you, if you'll just believe. I gotta go, it's already over 10 minutes, and I'm real proud of myself. I can kind of keep it together this long. I'm gonna go over the hill and through the woods to my psychiatrist and try to keep it together. I had 3 days where I just didn't sleep, and then finally broke down yesterday and realized, okay, I got to get back on that medication that allows me to settle down and sleep. So it's a humbling situation to be in if you suffer with this kind of thing. Let's be friends. We can do more than commiserate. We can pray for each other. All right, I'm not afraid. To me, you got to the point where it would be like me talking about. I have a bad knee and I'm going to go and get it replaced. It's something like that. It's like something up here in my head that's going wrong. That's all it is. And there's treatment and stuff for it. And it doesn't matter anyway, because he's made me whole inside, and I hope he's made you whole inside too. God bless.